kind of handled the Steelers.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was kind of a gully washer of sorts for the Eagles.
Is that an actual term, or did you just make that up? A gully washer?
Gully washer? You've never heard gully washer?
Never
How
heard it?
have you lived in Alabama all your life? You've never heard that? It's a complete rain out. It's like the gutters are so full, it's overflowing.
I love it. That's a great
gully
term.
washer. Yeah.
The Philadelphia Gully Washers.
Welcome into Sports Bluff. Week 15 is in the books, and it was a great week. It was a terrific week of football. A lot of good matchups. We're going to talk about a few of them tonight. Tristan, how have you been, man? I'm back from Disney. Broke, very broke after Disney. It's a magical place. Magically takes all your money is what it does. So really need this show to kind of blow up so we can start getting paid for this because Daddy needs to afford rent.
Daddy needs some change. Disney does that to you. It's worth it. It's fun, but it does take your soul and your money. And still, you'll go back. But the question is, did you have a good time? Ignore me. Of course, I can have a good time. I was home, traditional life. How was your trip?
Yeah, it was great, man. It really was. You know, seeing the kids, I have 2 kids, so it was nice seeing both their faces light up.
They live at Disney World? You don't see them normally?
No. Yeah, they moved there after last year we went.
Of course,
they said, yeah, well, it's not fun being at home. But no, it was really fun. That's why you pay as a parent. You pay to see the look on your kids' faces when they get to meet people like Woody and Buzz and, you know, Sully from Monsters, Inc. And we got to meet a lot of cool characters this time. Like, we really focused in on meeting some of the characters, which we didn't do last time. This was really nice. I actually enjoyed it, too. Ate a lot of good food. You know, Epcot will always do that to you. But, again, when you get back and you look at that credit card statement, you think to yourself, why do I do this?
Yeah, so, best not to look at it while you're there. What was your favorite park or moment from this trip?
Oh, that's a good one. So I rode Avatar for the first time ever. Now,
pretty fun.
Yeah, well, to give everybody a little insight, this is my second time ever at Disney. The first time, my youngest was too little to ride that ride. He still was this time, but I went with the oldest to ride it. And oh boy, it is actually, I'm not going to say life-changing and, you know, overblow it, but it is, as far as parks and rides go, it is the upper echelon of all rides at Disney, in my opinion. Yeah,
it's top tier, which is funny because it's like a VR ride. You know, you're just on a little bike and it's a screen, but it feels great. It's fun. It's worth the wait because it's usually got a long wait, but that's one of the best rides there for sure. I'm glad you told me you were going to try it when you were going this time. I was excited for you to do so because I knew you would like it. There's no way you do that ride and dislike it.
That is 100% true. And speaking of rides, let's talk about the ride that the Bills and the Lions went on tonight.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's knock out the question on top of everybody's mind. Can anyone stop the Buffalo Bills? And I'll add to that, we thought the Lions could. Seems not, but they did score a lot of points. This game was a high-scoring game, man. So I need your opinion because I'll save mine. I'll hear you first. Do you think anybody can stop the Bills?
It's not looking like it, buddy. It's not looking like it. Normally, when we have a Bills topic, obviously, I'll ask the question, even though you're typically the host. I'll usually throw it to you. I wanted to go first on this. We'll talk about Josh Allen in a second and his MVP stuff, so I'm going to step away from that. Obviously, the offense is fantastic, and Josh Allen is playing the best ball of his career. Ryan, the last time the Bills failed to score 30 points in a football game was a month ago, October 14th. They're scoring 32, 35, 45 points a game. Josh Allen's on another level. We'll get to him. If there's a weakness, if there's a caveat, that defense is looking worse by the week. I know it's easy. Right now, everyone's riding the Bills train. And me too. Hey, I picked them in this offseason to be really good. I wasn't buying that they were going to take a step down. I definitely think they're the team to beat in the AFC. I think they're the team to beat in the NFL. I think they are the best team in the NFL right now. However, the defense is a bit of an issue. I feel like people are overlooking it because they're scoring 48. But the last 2 weeks, I mean, they let the Rams hang 40 on them. You know, the Rams couldn't even get 16 on the Niners. They did better against Kansas City. So is this an outlier? Are they just having a bad couple games? Or is this a sign of the defense just not being what it used to be and maybe some of the injuries piling up? And Milano got injured today. That's the only thing that concerns me is how the defense plays in the playoffs. Because with them playing at this rate, Josh Allen has to play a perfect game, like he's done the past month. But if he doesn't, then they don't have any wiggle room.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I am most concerned about the Bills' defense rolling into week 16 and on, because it's something that is going to wind up hurting us in the future. We've managed to scrape by just outscoring the other team. And it has kind of a college vibe to it in a way, because college games will get like this where you'll just see two teams go back and forth, score 50 points sometimes, And I feel like the Bills have been doing that the last couple of weeks. I will say that the Rams and the Lions are both really high-powered offenses, so that may have something to do with it, because if you look at the week previous when they played the 49ers, the 49ers only scored 10 points against them. Chiefs didn't score that many at all. I think it was, 19 or something like that?
21, yeah.
21, yeah. So, I mean,
it's the past 2 weeks mainly.
Yeah. But, again, the injuries have obviously been an issue on the defensive side of the ball, but also they're playing a little bit more high-powered offenses, because even though Kansas City manages to scrape by these games, they're usually not high-scoring by any
definitely
means.
Not.
So wouldn't you say that the Rams and the Lions are definitely the two best offenses they played probably all year?
I don't know if I can go that far, especially in regards to the Rams. That's the thing. If it was just this Lions performance, I could overlook it because the Lions are high powered, but the Rams putting up 44, they're not an offense that typically puts up that many points, are they? I mean, and earlier in the season they had injuries. Nakua was out, Cooper Kupp was out, but looking back at their past couple of weeks, it's like they're not an offense that typically does that. They put up 12 against the Niners, 21 against the Saints, 20 against the Eagles, 28 against the Patriots, 15 against the Dolphins. Again, the injuries scattered throughout there. We haven't seen them have that kind of performance like they did against the Bills.
Yeah, so the thing I would say about the Rams is the Rams were actually fully healthy that game too. Puka was, he had a great game, probably, I think, one of his best games of the year that night. So, a fully healthy Rams team, I would say they are a high-powered offense. I mean, just because they're only, 2 years removed from a Super Bowl? Pretty much most of the team is still there. So, yeah, I think a fully healthy Rams is pretty high-powered, but you know for a fact that the Lions are high-powered, and it obviously showed tonight. The defense has to step up for the Bills if they want to move on and win a Super Bowl. Do you want to touch on Josh Allen with the MVP real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I want to know your preference on that. I want to know, do you like Josh Allen as the MVP right now? Or do you think he's locked it up? What's your take on that?
I don't know if he's locked it up, but in my eyes, kind of, yeah. It would be like, if I was voting, it would be really hard for me to not vote for him. Let's look at the MVP odds as they stand right now. He's minus 700, so running away favorite. You're losing money on him at this point. Jackson second, plus 475. Barkley didn't have a great game today. He would have had to continue having 150 yards plus a game to get it. He's basically out at this point. Goff and Burrow as well. It's a two-man race. It's Josh Allen, it's Lamar Jackson. Some people think it's closer than it is. The betting markets have Allen at a significant lead. The fact that Jackson won it last year, I think hurts him. Personally, even though Jackson's numbers might be a little bit better, MVP to me is also partly an eye test. And Josh Allen just looks like a superhero, Ryan. He is playing the best football of his career. I made a graphic. Take a look at this. This is Josh Allen just the last 4 weeks. This is his opponent, his passing yards, and total touchdowns. The Lions today, 362 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Rams the week before, 342 passing yards, 6 total touchdowns. 148 passing yards against the 49ers, 3 touchdowns, 262 pass yards against the Chiefs, and 2 touchdowns. That's 15 almost touchdowns in the past 4 weeks. He is on fire, and you're not having the typical Josh Allen mistakes. Used to be, you'd get all this, but you'd get turnovers too. He's protecting the ball. He's scoring every drive. He's
using his legs.
He's using his legs, but keeping his eyes downfield. He is the most deadly quarterback when he runs to the sideline and go. Anytime he runs to the sideline and he arches back to throw it across the field, or it's going to be completed. Yeah. And he's just knocking defenders off of him. Yeah. He's knocking people off like they're 6-year-olds. He is incredible. This is the best season of his career. Joe Brady is calling incredible games. He's finally got like a legit offensive coordinator. I love it. I don't think he would have to really nosedive to not win the MVP to me.
This is reminiscent of the Brian Daboll days with Josh Allen, minus the turnovers. So the maturity has gotten better with Allen. The ball security has gotten a lot better. And Joe Brady is, actually back to calling really good plays, really comfortable plays for Josh Allen in this offense. And obviously time helps. These receivers were young. You brought in Cooper. I think he's helped the locker room a lot. I think Amari has helped more off-field than he has on. And I don't know that to be true. I just can imagine that's that senior level guy coming into the locker room, coaching up Shakir, coaching up Keon Coleman. It's going to be one of those things where these guys are looking up to Coop, and they're going to play better because you have that type of player next to you now, right? What I am concerned about, though, is I don't want it to get to his head. I don't want him to start thinking about this. As our old former coach who we miss dearly, Nick Saban, would say, the rat poison of the media. I don't want that to get to him, and I hope he doesn't listen to it. I hope he just continues on having great games and not getting in his head.
I don't think it will, because he just doesn't seem like that type of guy. Honestly, I sent you something like a week ago with him at a press conference. It's impossible to dislike him. He's just the perfect quarterback. He's genuinely a nice guy. Like, I know we don't know these people, but you can tell he's a good guy. I mean, like, everything he says, like, he always says the right thing. He always takes care of his guys. He is that leader. I'm sure he cares about this award because he doesn't have an MVP. And obviously he wants that. He cares about his legacy. He wants to be up there with Mahomes and Brady and all them. And because talent-wise he is. So I'm sure a part of him cares. But I honestly think most of him doesn't. He is focused on the Super Bowl because he knows at the end of the day, his legacy is not really going to be written by MVPs. Obviously that helps, but it's Super Bowl victories. And I think he's just trying to stay focused and get that ring. Because if it was week 6, I would be like, yeah, okay, you're right. But it's week 15. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a regression here.
He's hitting his stride late in the year, which is really good for the MVP odds, which is why he's leading so much. And I do agree that he is the most deserving out of everybody right now to, have that MVP award. I would honestly put Barkley, if it was me, over Lamar Jackson, because the MVP to me says who is most valuable to your team. And by far, Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley are the offensive drivers of both of their teams. And so that's why I think that they are the most deserving. Josh Allen is, fortunately for me, because I'm a Bills fan, he's kind of outdoing Barkley right now, especially after the day Barkley had today. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Lions real quick, because I do want to ask you, are they still the dominant favorite that everybody thought they were?
No, they're not. Obviously, they're still a force to be reckoned with. They're still one of the favorites in the NFC. You've got to take them seriously.
Sure.
A lot of issues, Ryan. I wrote a couple notes down. I just want to touch on some points, jump in wherever. The injuries are starting to become what I would say insurmountable. They're defensive injuries. There are so many. It's to the point that this isn't, even if you get guys back, you just can't continue to live this way. It was bad 2 weeks ago. They were already decimated on their front seven particularly. And then in this game, they lost Carlton Davis and Aleem McNeil. They both left this game with injuries. We'll see what happens. Detroit is in a situation now because of the defensive injuries. Hutchinson, obviously, they lost earlier in the year, and he was arguably their best player. They have to win shootouts. And similar to what I said to the Bills, if their defense plays like that, the Lions, they have to play perfect. They have to play perfect on offense if they want to win these games. The problem is, Jared Goff is good. He's not Josh Allen. The Lions played a really good game today offensively. Problem is they got behind in the first quarter and they were playing catch up all game long. And then when they were in a position to win the game, Ryan, they were trailing by 10 points with 12 minutes left. And they go for an onside kick, which Buffalo catches, takes down to basically the 5-yard line and scores immediately. And then you're down by 17. It makes no sense. I'll get your opinion on it, but here's the thing. I understand what the thinking is, and I know what the defense is going to be. The defense is going to be, well, look, our defense is already decimated. We can't stop Josh Allen. If we kick off to him, they're going to drive downfield and score again. Okay, maybe so, but the percentage chance of you getting a turnover defensively or something crazy happening compared to the percentage chance of you recovering an onside kick, and I know they almost did then, almost doesn't count. They didn't, okay? The odds are better for you to kick and play defense and hope to get a turnover or force a 3 and out. You know, they had forced a punt at some point in this game. An onside kick with 12 minutes left, basically the whole quarter, and you're only down 10. I kind of think it's indefensible. And as much as I love Dan Campbell, you know I've been a champion of Dan Campbell. I think some of these decisions he makes, just like it cost him last year against the 49ers, it's going to cost him in a big spot in the playoffs this year. He is too reckless for his own good.
Yeah, he is. And I love some of his gutsy calls, but when they make sense, like I feel like
I love 70% of them.
Yeah, that's right. But I feel like this was one of those ones where, now if it worked, everybody loves it. That's the flip side to all of this, right? Is if it worked, nobody's talking about, but the media, the majority of media coverage would not be saying, wow, that was a terrible call. But when it doesn't work, which is how most calls work, when they don't work, everybody talks about them and how terrible they are. That's when
that's the job you signed up for.
Right. And then also in his press conference afterwards, he said in hindsight, he wished he hadn't have done it. So, well, yeah,
that's good.
It's a little too late,
But this is the problem. It feels like most of his decisions, like I said, 70-80% of the time I agree with him. I thought that going for it on 4th down against Green Bay, I didn't really love that one when they could, but even that one I kind of understood, and I understand it's their identity. But to me, it feels like he gets so locked in, and this is our identity. So anytime, in any game, in any quarter, when there's a decision where it's could be considered conservative, aggressive, he thinks they have to go aggressive. It's like, no, buddy, you got to do it based on the game. You can be aggressive 90% of the time, and I understand. Trust me, I get it. Your defense is, it's all backups, and you feel like you can't stop Allen all day. But I just promise you, you've got better odds at making something happen with Josh Allen and the offense having to go out there multiple plays versus one kick where you got to hope to get a hop, because it's not like you can do a surprise onside kick anymore. I just thought it was careless, and really what it signaled to me, Ryan, and it kind of felt like they panicked. It felt like he panicked because Detroit, even in the close games, even in the games they've lost, they didn't get punched in the mouth. And today, Buffalo punched him in the mouth. They were more physical. They wore down on him. And it felt like, even though you're only down 10 points and you got a whole quarter left, they panicked.
Yeah, and Buffalo let their foot off the gas on the defensive side of the ball late in the game.
Sure did.
So the score is a lot closer than I think the game felt. But yeah, this is one of those games where, like you said, I think Campbell got backed into a corner, and to fight his way out, he chose long shot opportunities instead of traditional punch you in the mouth football. If he would have just ran the ball, stopped the Bills on one drive, they're right back in the game, and it could be different. We could be talking about the Lions winning tonight instead of the Bills.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's not what they did. The Eagles improve to 12-2. They beat Pittsburgh 27-13. Kind of handled the Steelers. Yeah, honestly, it was kind of a gully washer of sorts for the Eagles.
Is that an actual term, or did you just make that up? A gully washer?
Gully washer? You've never heard gully washer?
Never
heard it? How have you lived in Alabama all your life if you've never heard that? It's a complete rain out. It's like the gutters are so full, it's overflowing.
I love it. That's a great
gully
term.
Washer. Yeah.
The Philadelphia Gully Washers.
That sounds like a candy you serve at the Eagles Stadium.
Yeah.
Like, did you get your back of gully washers today?
To the football game, I wanted to say before we get into the question,
Sure.
It was a close game. What changed was the fumble for Pittsburgh. Now, I'm not saying Pittsburgh would have won it. It did feel like Philadelphia was controlling it, but Pittsburgh's only down one score. They have the ball. They are driving to, I think they could have even tied the game at this point, and they're kind of moving the ball. Russell Wilson hits a pass, and they run a toss to Najee Harris. Najee takes his eyes off the ball because it's a toss, and he's looking for his hole instead of the ball, and he fumbles. Eagles recover. First time Najee has fumbled all season. Tough break, but after that, the Eagles scored. We're up 2 scores, and the Steelers just don't have the team that can play like that. They have to play a low-scoring defensive game and keep up with you and beat you at the end. If they go down 2 scores, it's hard for them to come back. That's where the game completely shifted.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned defense, and I do want to bring this up before I ask you this question. Over the last 6 games, the Eagles have held their opponents to under 20 points, except for one game. Week 12 against the Rams. We were just talking about the Rams last segment. They scored 20 points exactly. But tonight, 13, 16 points for the Panthers, 19 for the Ravens, 18 for the Commanders, 6 for the Cowboys. Look, I know a couple of these teams are, not that great like the Cowboys and the Panthers, but you're talking about you're talking about holding the Ravens, the Commanders, the Cowboys are divisional, right? So are the Commanders, to under 20 points. This defense, I think it may be the best in the NFL right now. So,
well, for that point, let me just show this graphic because you mentioned it. And I just want to put it on the screen. If you look at defense, points per game allowed, Denver, the Chargers, and the Eagles all tied for first place. They allow 17.6 points a game. Right behind them, you have the Vikings, who only allow 18.5, as well as the Chiefs, 18.5. Those are the top 5. But Broncos, Chargers, Eagles, right there, 17.5 points a game is the average. Through 15 weeks, that's genuinely insane. And this defense has just gotten better and better and better and better week in and week out.
So, to that point, not only has their defense gotten better, I believe their offense keeps improving. Today, it took a little step back. We didn't see Saquon as much as we have in the weeks past, and they didn't score as many points as they scored 27, scored 22 against the Panthers last week. But mostly they score over 25 points pretty much every week. Do you think with them in position to try to overtake that 1 seed from Detroit, are the Eagles the most complete team in the NFC right now?
Absolutely. It's not even close.
They have to be, right?
It's not even close.
Defense. It's the defense.
Yes, it is. Well, it's both. So the defense, absolutely. And there are great teams in the NFC. The Eagles are probably the most complete team in the NFL, actually. I'd even take it a step further. I think they're the most complete team in the NFL. Just like we talked about Buffalo, where you worry about the defense. The Eagles, you don't worry about any particular side of the ball. The only thing you worry about is maybe game decision-makings by the head coach, but we'll have to deal with that when we get there.
Tristan, since their bye week in week 5, how many games have they lost? Do you know?
I don't think they have.
None.
Yeah.
They've lost 0 games since their bye week.
Yeah, 10 in a row, or 9 in a row.
That's insane. And we were talking about them early before their bye week after they lost to the Falcons and lost to the Bucs.
Yeah,
they
didn't look good.
Yeah, we were thinking like, oh, this team is not what we thought it would be. But wow, since the bye week, man, I didn't realize that. Just every week they've been, I don't know if this makes sense, but they've kind of been off my radar. They're a little quiet. Like, I just know they're good, but I didn't realize they were this good.
Well, it goes back to the point of what kind of team they are. It's because they're not a team that is flashy every week. They're not a dominant defense every week. Really, their identity is, how do you want us to beat you? Philly lines up every week and they say, how do you want to get beat? Because we're going to do it. Oh, you want us to run the ball? Okay. You want us to throw the ball? Okay. You want to score 40? We'll do it. They are complete in that way. They can beat you however they want. Ryan, to finish this game, they had a 10-minute, 20-plus play drive that put the clock away, that put the Steelers down. Steelers never got the ball back. Tomlin punted and was like, yeah, we'll get the ball back. You're not, buddy. I thought that was a terrible move by Tomlin. I was like, be aggressive here. That's where the Eagles are just different. There's not another team in the league, I don't think, that I can think of that can beat you in any type of football game. Every team has at least one type of football game they get in that they wouldn't fare well. I don't feel that way about the Eagles. I feel like Vic Fangio's got this defense rolling, and if the offense can do whatever they want. Oh, we can have Saquon run for 200 on you. Oh, we can torch you in the air with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And then Jalen Hurts, although he's not perfect, he does extend a ton of plays and make something out of nothing. They will do whatever they have to do. It's really impressive.
The next 3 games are all divisional opponents. The Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Giants. Do you think they sweep all 3 of those teams?
It's hard to say they sweep them. It feels like, but man, I mean, they've won 10 or 9 in a row. So the way
they beat
playing,
the Commanders already. I think the Commanders have the best chance of beating them, especially after Jaden Daniels played a really good game today. So I think after, maybe the Commanders are getting their legs back under them. I still think they're a very young team, but I think they have the best chance out of these 3 teams at beating the Eagles.
God, imagine rolling into the playoffs in that situation. You'd probably be the 1 seed because they're tied with Detroit as a record. I think Detroit's got the tiebreaker. So they absolutely, Philadelphia could be the 1 seed. Honestly, you might favor them to be the 1 seed the way the schedule plays out because Detroit ends the season with Minnesota. So totally different paths here, and Philadelphia just looks better. The Eagles, imagine going into the playoffs on a 13-game winning streak. Like we always talk about, the team that wins the Super Bowl is usually a team that gets hot and goes in on a winning streak. We'll talk about another one of those teams later. I think that's a different level. 13 games in a row going into a possible bye week and then a home playoff game. It's really impressive.
The Eagles are definitely on the upswing right now, man, and I just don't see any teams in the NFC, aside from the Lions, if they can get that defense fixed, the Eagles are just going to walk away with this, man. Like, it is just their division to lose, really. And, before this, everybody was saying, like, I saw a little meme or whatever you want to call it pop up. It was like, the Super Bowl will probably get, and it was like the Chiefs and the Eagles, and then the Super Bowl everybody wants, the Bills and the Lions. Well, after today, you got a picture of what the Bills and the Lions will look like. Could you imagine the Bills and the Eagles?
Yeah.
Because as it stands right now, I'm more afraid to face the Eagles than I would be the Lions.
It is certainly what we are racing toward, but as we know, in the playoffs, anything can happen. It's all about matchups. It's not like basketball where you play 7 games. One game, one bounce of the ball, one special teams play. You got to be perfect.
Well, we thought the Chargers had a really good defense, but today, Baker Mayfield really exposed them. They won 40-17. And they just really dominated the Chargers all day today. It was like they were bullies in a locker room. It was terrible for the Chargers, that is. They're 8-6 now. They do lead the NFC South, which I think I predicted earlier in the year. I think I said Tampa Bay would probably win this division.
No. You were a NFC South, and you were a Falcons believer.
No, I'm pretty sure I said Tampa Bay.
I've got it on file. Run the tape.
So it's a scary stretch. Enough for me to say under here, because I think 7 wins is maybe their max. I've deleted it already. It's a deep fake, actually. It wasn't me that week. But no, Tampa Bay is one of those teams where you had mentioned teams getting hot at the end of the year. This is one of those teams that I feel like with Mike Evans back and Bucky Irving getting a little bit healthier.
It was good.
I think the hip issue is a little bit better this week. At least it seemed at this today. Do you think the Bucs can win a playoff game? And I think I don't want to say a silly question, because obviously any NFL team on any given Sunday could probably win a playoff game.
But some teams are long shots. Yeah,
they are. Yeah. But me personally, I don't think this is in question too much. I believe that the Bucs have a sure shot at winning a playoff game.
So I don't know if I'd pick them to, but I think they can. I think a few things have to go right for them. The Bucs are such an interesting team, similar to what I said about Philadelphia. When I said Philadelphia can beat you anyway, they show up and say, "What kind of game do you want to play?" Okay, we'll beat you that way. The Bucs are the opposite. They're going to show up and they're going to say, "We have to win one way. We have to stop the run. We have to get pressure on the quarterback, and Baker Mayfield has to be hot." If those 3 things don't happen, they won't win, and they will look awful. That's why they're up and down a lot.
So let me bring you this question, and we'll talk about this team next. Let's talk about if the playoffs ended today, Tampa Bay would play Green Bay. Okay? We saw Green Bay, what can happen when their script goes right, which is Josh Jacobs has to have a good game.
Yeah.
If it has to rely on Jordan Love, we have an issue.
I disagree with that. I think Jordan Love's playing really well.
It's harder for them to win if it has to rely completely on Jordan Love.
I would phrase it different. I would say the Packers are scarier when Josh Jacobs is having a big game.
Yes.
I wouldn't knock Love, but yes, I agree.
As far as big game goes, today was pretty much one of those big days.
He's been having a lot of them.
Told you in the offseason that this was going to be a huge addition to this team, and it's played out that way. So my question is, Tampa Bay and Green Bay would play if the playoffs were today. You said Tampa Bay has to have a script go one way.
Yes.
I think Green Bay has to have, they're both Bays, right? This would be the Dock of the Bay game, okay? Green Bay, I think, has to have a script to go the right way. I think for it to run the way they want it to, they have to be able to run the ball. I think Josh Jacobs has to be very successful.
So that's really interesting. That's so interesting because I agree with you. But on the other side, for Tampa to do well, they have to be able to stop the run, which, remember, that was an issue last year. This year, they've done a good job at stopping the run. Mm-hmm. Like they've been, it feels like one of the better teams. Looks like they're top 12, 15 in rush yards a game. So they do a pretty good job at that. That would be a great matchup to watch because you're right. Green Bay would need to get Jacobs going. And for Tampa to have any success, they would have to neutralize him to an extent. So you'd probably be able to tell pretty early on who gets the advantage in that matchup.
The question was, could the Bucs win a playoff game? The playoffs are today. Would they win this football game?
They would not win that football game.
Would you say it's because of Green Bay's defense?
No, I would say it's kind of an amalgamation of all the things I said. So let me go broader and not just say it's Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Let me just focus in on Tampa Bay. The answer is yes, they can win a playoff game. I wouldn't pick them against the Packers, but I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Packers. I think it would be like a 2-point spread. It'd be basically a pick 'em. Like it would be a close game, especially if Tampa was at home. Here's the thing. Tampa Bay's defense gives up explosive plays down the field. Like I think they have one of the worst pass defenses in the league. It feels like it. Yeah, bottom 5 pass defense. They give up explosive plays all over the place, but some games they're able to shut that down. Because of Todd Bowles and the type of defense he runs, not to get like too in the weeds here, they run a lot of blitzes and a lot of exotic coverages. They like to get after the quarterback, and they get torched from time to time. And that's why I said it comes down to pressures. They do a good job stopping the run most of the time. If they can stop the run and get home with their pressures, force incompletions, get sacks, force throwaways, whatever, then I like them. And I think they can beat any team they face if they do that. But as we've seen this season, they're inconsistent in their ability to do that. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. So if those pressures get home and hit Jordan Love or whatever quarterback they're playing, and on the other side, simultaneously, Baker Mayfield's hot. Because when he's hot, he's great. But sometimes he has those games where he throws 3 picks and he just doesn't look the same. He's had a few this year. That's kind of been Tampa Bay. They've been up and down. You have to have both of those things happen. They both have to go right. They have to get home with their pressures, keep stopping the run, and Baker has to be on fire. If those things go together, which like they did against the Chargers, like they have multiple times this season, then they can win a playoff game. If they don't, they won't. And it's just, you just don't know which Tampa Bay you're going to get because it is so volatile week to week. I will say though, with that said, they've won 4 straight games. They do seem to be getting hot at the right time. And their final 3 games, Ryan, Cowboys, Panthers, and Saints. Theoretically, they could go into the playoffs on a 7-game win streak.
I'm just looking at, since Green Bay's bye week in week 10, I brought this up earlier in the show. They've only allowed one team, which is the Lions, to go over 20 points. They held the Seahawks today to 13, the Dolphins to 17, the 49ers to 10, and the Bears to 19. So I think this Green Bay defense is legit. And after they dismantled Seattle today, which I know Geno got hurt, was it? Third quarter?
Yeah.
If he would have played through the whole game, it would have wound up the same way, I think. This isn't a knock against Geno or anything. I'm just saying the defense of Green Bay is, I believe, that good, and I think they're getting better as the weeks go on. So I think that's what would make me pick Green Bay right now. If Green Bay and Tampa Bay played, I think Green Bay wins because of the defense. I think they're able to shut down some of these big plays that Tampa Bay has to have for them to be able to win.
100% right. I would agree with that completely. If you look at the offensive yards a game, offensive production yards a game, top 5 teams, Ravens, Lions, Bucs, Packers, and then Commanders. Bucs are 3, Packers are 4. So they're dead even in offensive production. You go to the opposite side, defensive production. As you said, Packers are top 5, Bucs are bottom 5. That's a big difference. Now, if those pressures get home and you force a turnover, which Jordan Love is prone to do, things can go another way. I'm with you. I would pick the Packers in that hypothetical matchup. Let me say this last point, we'll move on. Even though the question was, could the Bucs win a playoff game? We said against the Packers, we wouldn't pick them, but I think they could win a playoff game because they could beat the Packers. And if they get a draw like the Commanders, they could beat the Commanders. If they get a draw like the Vikings, they could beat them. They went into Detroit and beat Detroit this year. So that's the thing. Like on any given Sunday, they could pull it off. I wouldn't favor them to necessarily.
One thing I've learned is to never doubt Baker Mayfield because that dude can play some ball. He is, when he's on fire, you can't put him out. Like he's dialed in. He can escape the pocket. He can get the yards with his legs. He can throw some dimes.
Awesome.
He can thread the needle. And honestly, this version of Baker Mayfield, we've had a lot of versions of Baker if you've watched him through Oklahoma days, right? Yeah. We've had a lot of versions of Baker. We've had him childish. We've had him, being the front man of the Browns, and that's really all he was good for there because they didn't know how to utilize him. And now you have him at the Bucs. So he comes into an organization that just won a Super Bowl with the greatest quarterback of our generation, Tom Brady, and you have to pick up the pieces where they fell. He's done a pretty good job. And as a Browns fan, you have to be thinking like, wow, did we miss this talent? Now I think it's just the coaching he's had around him. The talent was always there. Somebody just had to bring it out of him. And just the way he's playing, the maturity, and this version of Baker Mayfield is my favorite of all time. Just the way he plays on the field, the way his players around him respect him, and the amount of fun that he has on the field.
Yes.
He's just such a fun dude, man.
That's why the Tampa Bay fit feels great. Doesn't it feel like it's just where he belongs? He belongs in Florida, in that culture,
the fans
with
love
those
him.
guys. Like it feels like he is a Tampa quarterback. He never really quite fit in Cleveland. Now, by the way, let's just not pretend his Cleveland dude was a disaster.
Fit in Cleveland?
No one. Kevin Stefanski's the only one, and massage parlors. There's a lot of them up there. Baker Mayfield won a playoff game in Cleveland. He beat the Steelers. Like he was successful. It's not his fault they made a dumbass decision. I agree though. I love him. If you take away those top echelon of quarterbacks like Burrow, Jackson, Allen, the top tier guys, right below them, I mean, Baker's like at the top of those guys. He's right in that conversation.
Yeah. I said earlier, I texted you earlier, he's top 5 quarterback. You're like, no, he's not. And I'm like, well, in fantasy, that's what I was meaning because I was looking at the fantasy points as I was texting you.
It's funny because I have him in Dynasty, but I haven't started him a single game because I also have Josh Allen.
Well, everybody's not as lucky as you, I guess. But anyway, when you look at Baker, after you get past those, like you said, the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks right now, he's trying to fight his way to that rock formation. He is trying to be up there, and he's doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, I just don't think he'll ever surpass somebody like Lamar Jackson or anything like that. But he doesn't need to. He could take the Bucs to a Super Bowl. He really could. I believe he could.
100% he could. They weren't supposed to make the playoffs last year. They did and made a run. They weren't supposed to make the playoffs this year. They're going to, and they're going to make a run. It's impressive. You have to like him at this point in his career. I agree. It's the best Baker Mayfield we've seen. They can win a playoff game. Maybe not against the Packers, but depends on the matchup.
Well, we mentioned him last segment. Let's talk about them more in depth. Green Bay versus Seattle. It was let's just use the word gully washer, right? It was a terrible game for the Seahawks in every way possible. If I say the number 7 to you, does that ring a bell?
Friends episode?
No, sack total. Total. 7 sacks were taken by the Seattle Seahawks. Whether it was Geno Smith, whether it was whoever that guy was that played quarterback tonight after Geno, I don't care really who was behind center. The Seahawks offensive line was not stopping Green Bay at all. We've touched on Green Bay and how good they are and how good their defense is and what they need to do to win. I want you to tell me what is wrong and how have the Seahawks fooled us into thinking that they are a much better team than they actually are.
So that's really all I want to talk about. I'm glad we're having this conversation. The Seahawks last year, I picked them to make a deep playoff run, picked them to go to the Super Bowl. Stupid. I regret it. Don't want to talk about it, but I'm being transparent. This year, I didn't pick them to make, or I might have picked them to squeeze in. Either way, I was on the fence. I thought they'd be good. I thought they'd improve, and they always fool me. Because this is what the Seahawks do, Ryan. They win a lot of those 12 o'clock games when you're watching it in the 4 screen or the Octo box, and you're watching it, but you're watching it alongside 7 other games. You're like, hey, they won pretty good. Geno made a couple late plays. And then they get a primetime game and they let you down. Look, I'm not a Seahawks fan. I'm not a Packers fan. Me and you, we're just NFL fans. I just wanted to see a good Sunday night football game, a battle for the NFC. I thought this was going to be a good one, and it wasn't. Literally the first drive, Packers go right down the field. Second drive, Packers go right down the field. It's 17-0, 17-7. The game was over, and at the end of the first quarter, we both knew it. And then I really got to thinking. I was like, dude, the Seahawks do this to us every time because it feels like every time they're on primetime, the matchup is like, oh, this will be good, and they lay an egg. I could have gone back to last year. This is just this year, Ryan. They've had 3 primetime games. Let's take a look at this. Week 4, they played the Lions. Oh, Seahawks Lions, week 4 in primetime. Yeah, they lost 42-29. Okay, well, they're going to get their chance. Week 6, divisional matchup against the 49ers. I think it was on Thursday night. They need this. They lose 36-24. All right, well, they get redemption right here. They 8-5. They can get their 9th win week 15 against the Packers, and they lose 30-13. It's not competitive. It's funny because we talk about Kirk Cousins in the past having primetime issues. This spans back to Pete Carroll and now Mike McDonald. Maybe it's a Geno issue. I don't know. But I won't be fooled again, Ryan. I'm like the Who. Every time Seahawks have a good matchup, a matchup in primetime that you're like, oh, this should be a good game. This has implications. And they always let you down. They've lost all 3 of their primetime matchups. I'm just done expecting anything from Seattle. And I know Seattle fans are going to be like, you're being too harsh. Maybe. Maybe. I know the offensive line has issues. We were aware of that the preseason, but they fool us into thinking they're good. I don't know why. I think it's just because they get those wins in the 12 o'clock window, and then they get put in front of a large, multi-million audience, and they completely lay an egg. They don't even give you a competitive game.
Yeah, I agree. Seattle is definitely struggling in the primetime. So is Geno. So is just every part of Seattle, man. I think they have probably... do you think they're out of the playoff picture completely? Like, do you think it's just done?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get in because the way it's going, it looks like there's only going to be room for one team in the NFC West, just whoever wins it. Like, there's not a wild card spot that's going to go to the NFC West. That's the problem. And they really needed this game tonight to stay ahead of the Rams. Because they lost this game, the Rams now lead that division. They're both tied. Perhaps the Rams fall off down the stretch, but I doubt it. I mean, looking at these two teams, like, is there any doubt that the Rams are such a superior team to the Seahawks? Could you ever imagine the Seahawks going and scoring 40 against the Bills and beating them? No, because they played the Bills earlier this season and they got shellacked.
What's funny is the last game of the season for the Seahawks, they actually play at the Rams.
Okay, so that's going to be a big one depending on how the records shake out. So what's the Seahawks schedule the rest of the way?
Vikings, Bears, Rams.
So probably 2 losses. What's the Rams schedule?
So the Rams, obviously, they played the Seahawks as their last game, but before that, they'll play the Jets and the Cardinals. Much easier schedule. Well, actually, it's really about even if you think about it. Like, it's...
I don't think Rams will lose 2 of them.
Yeah. I think the Vikings and Bears, that's probably a little bit tougher, but I don't know. It could shake up where that last game of the year is the deciding factor.
Exactly. And if so, I'll put my money on the Rams because I can't trust the Seahawks in a gotta-have-it spot. I like the coach. I like the direction they're heading. They got to figure out something at quarterback. The Geno experiment's over.
News just in. The Thursday night game is at the Bears for the Seattle Seahawks. Surely a loss.
Yeah, and absolutely. In primetime, go ahead and change that dial.
On Amazon Prime, that will be a loss. Mark our words, especially if Geno can't get healthy, man. Like, by the way, did you see the heating pad taped onto his leg?
No.
Okay, couldn't have been bigger. It was the most massive heating. It was way too big for his leg. I don't understand what was happening. They were duct taping it around his leg. I'm like, guys, it's the NFL. Like, do we not have better technology to put a heating pad on somebody's leg besides duct tape and a wool blanket? Like, that's what prepared. It was. I think it was just hot hands wrapped up in wool, duct taped around his leg. I don't know what was going on the Seattle sidelines, but obviously they don't even have their medical department up to snuff. So
they were as lost as the football team was.
I guess so. It was like, inflammation. What do I do?
The lights are too bright.
Yeah.
Ryan, real quick, I just want to look at the playoff picture, kind of get your opinions. Let's start in the AFC. As it sits right now, obviously 3 weeks ago, Chiefs would have the bye. You would have Chargers at the Bills, Broncos at the Steelers, Ravens at the Texans. Out of these, would any of those matchups stand out to you? Any of those you find intriguing, scary? What do you think? Look at those potential AFC matchups.
Yeah, I think the most competitive matchups is going to be the Ravens and the Texans. I think that would be, I think that would be a very, very close matchup.
Wow, I think that's the worst one, actually.
Really? That's interesting. I think the Broncos and Steelers will be a great defensive battle.
That'd be a good game.
I think the Chargers, the way they lost today, I think the Bills, how the Bills won today, it should be a pretty much a clean sweep for them, for the Bills there.
It feels like for the Chargers to win one, they would have to get to play the Steelers or something. Like they would need to take over the Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm hoping the Bills get the 1 seed, and as a Chiefs fan, we are going to see Kansas City this upcoming weekend play the Texans.
Yes, sir.
If you're Patrick Mahomes, you're really rooting for the Lions to win today, so you could probably take the week off. Right. But as it stands right now, the Bills have every chance of getting that 1 seed. And honestly, I need the Bills to have that.
Well, Chiefs are one game up on them, but they have a tougher schedule. I think the Bills, rest of their game, I think they've got like Patriots twice and the Jets. So it's an easy road for the Bills. So Kansas City can't afford to slip up the rest of the way.
Yeah, so what's the most interesting game to you in this AFC matchup or this AFC playoff picture?
Honestly, right now, I think it's Broncos-Steelers because while I don't think either of those teams could win the Super Bowl, I could see whoever wins that game going on to perhaps upset the next week. I mean, you wouldn't pick them to, but I'll tell you this, Baltimore doesn't want to see Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Like, they do not. Like, the Ravens, even though I don't think they're as good as everybody thought they was, like, I don't know if they beat the Bills again. They could beat most teams, even the Chiefs. I don't think they would want to play the Steelers because division rivals, the Steelers have gotten the best of them. That's where I'm going right now. Chargers, Bills. Chargers are still a year or two away. They're over exceeding expectations. They shouldn't even be here. Good for them. Broncos, Steelers would be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, the Bills, by the way, just go back to that. They do have the Patriots twice and the Jets in between that. But the Chiefs, y'all have a rough schedule left. The Texans at the Steelers and at the Broncos, and obviously the Broncos are a divisional matchup. So
the only benefit there is if the Chiefs win the next 2 weeks, they don't care about the Broncos because they'd be up one game. Although if Bills tied it, Bills have the tiebreaker because of the head-to-head. So actually defeats the purpose. So Kansas City probably going to have to win out. Yeah,
they definitely will. Let's talk about the NFC. You want to bring that into picture now?
Yeah, let's just basically the same question. So right now, Lions would have the bye. That is not locked up, guys. Lions, Eagles, and if the Vikings win on Monday night, will all have the same record. Lions and Vikings are going to play last week of the season. That one seed could go to any of those three teams. Right now, I would favor Philly. But as it sits at this moment, Lions would have the one seed in the bye. We would have Commanders at Eagles, divisional matchup. Packers at the Bucs, which we talked in detail about earlier. And then the Vikings at the Rams. Which one of those interests you the most without rehashing Packers Bucs too much?
Right. This is kind of it's kind of easy for me as far as the most competitive. I would love to see the Packers and Bucs because of what we taught the game plan. You know, I want to see which one works. But as far as just good TV to watch, I think the Vikings and Rams would be a really even matchup, and I would like to see that play out. I think the Eagles would just wipe the floor with any team in the NFC right now except for the Lions. I think that would be their best shot. Wow. I think the Eagles are just on such a hot streak right now, man, that I just don't see anybody beating them.
I don't think they'd wipe the floor with anybody. I definitely think they would.
I think with the Commanders, they would wipe the floor.
Yeah, the Commanders, again, similar to what we said about the Chargers, a year or two away. You know, they're over-exceeding expectations. They shouldn't be here. You know, the fact that they would even make the playoffs is impressive. You wouldn't expect them to win a playoff game. So what I find interesting, when you look at the AFC, I really think there's two teams.
Well, hey, just stop you real quick.
Fuck me, go ahead.
So just to let you know, next week we will get that preview because the Eagles play at the Commanders. Just want to throw that out there. So
right.
We'll go ahead and get that out of the way.
Right, and Commanders might even fall out by the time we get to the playoffs actually coming through. When you look at the AFC, there's really only two teams, maybe three that I think could win the Super Bowl.
Let me cut you off right there.
I really think it's Chiefs and Bills in the AFC. If you wanted to make an argument for the Ravens, you can. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team with that defense. Yeah. On the other hand, though, in the NFC, other than the Commanders, I think any of these teams could win the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. I could see the Lions winning the NFC. I could see the Eagles doing it. I could see the Packers doing it. Bucs more of a stretch. But you know, the way they play, if they got 3 games together, okay. And Vikings and Rams, I think, could both do it. Obviously, Bucs are less likely of those, but all those teams I could see winning the NFC. I mean, winning 2 or 3 games.
Out of all 3 of these teams, the Vikings, I believe, have the toughest schedule left. They have the Seahawks at the Seahawks next week. I'm sorry, they have the Bears, the Seahawks, the Packers, and then at the Lions.
Okay, but even take that away. Like, forget the rest of the regular season. Just say it finished like this.
Yeah.
Don't you think all of those teams, or am I stretching? Is there any you don't think could put it together and go on a run? Because I think any of those teams could beat any of the other teams on a given Sunday.
Yeah, I do. I think the Vikings are just waiting to fall apart, though. Something tells me that they're on that. I know they're up there.
It's week 15, buddy. I thought that too, and I think we got to let go of that take.
I'm telling you, though, I just think the rest of the season they're just going to nosedive. I just have a feeling, and I've been wrong more than I've been right. But that's my gut reaction is the Vikings don't have that. They don't have what it takes. I don't think the Commanders do either. I think they're too young.
Definitely Commanders don't. No.
Yeah. So, but out of the other teams, if you put the Lions, the Eagles, the Packers, the Bucs, and the Rams all together in a room and said, "Hey, hash it out. Let's do an octagon match," I don't know who would win.
It's wild because usually in the past, it's always been the AFC, how tough the AFC is. But this year, I know surprises can happen.
But we talked about this. We said this a couple of years ago. The NFC is going to even out because of these defenses.
Right.
And
the roster is more spread out. It's not consolidated in the quarterback position as it is in the AFC. 100%. It's just the playoff bracket in the NFC is more interesting than in the AFC, which is really cool. I'll say this in last point. Obviously, I was high on this team preseason. I thought they would be the 2 seed. I was really high on them. The team, if I'm in the NFC, the team I do not want to play is the Los Angeles Rams. Do not put me against Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, and Puka Nacua, and also Jared Verse in a playoff game. I'm telling you, dude, I know they can be a little up and down, but they've turned it around. They're probably going to win that division. The Rams could beat any team in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I mean, I never put anything back or past Matt Stafford, man. Like he is that dude sometimes, and more often than not. yeah,
absolutely. Do you think they could win the Super Bowl?
No.
Not favored, but do you think it's possible?
No. I don't think this year they could win the Super Bowl. I don't think there was a world where they get past the Eagles or the Lions.
I do.
I think they could get past any other team. I just think they would get...
Even with the Lions' defensive injuries?
Okay, so if you're asking me a tier, I think the Rams could get past everybody. The Lions will be the next toughest matchup, but I just don't think anybody gets past the Eagles right now, man.
Yeah.
They're on a, what'd you say, 10, 11 game
win
streak?
Yeah.
All of them since the bye week. And they have a chance of closing out the rest of the season, without a loss. I just don't think that the Rams, with their deficiencies at defense, could stop the Eagles. Well, that's week 15. Sports Bluff, we're in and out just in no time. About an hour and a half. So you're going to have a lot of fun editing to do. But I just want to say special thanks to you for putting in the legwork behind the editing and the way you do things. You're just a mastermind at it. Everybody please like the video just for Tristan, because he does a great job at editing this show and making it look like $1 million production, honestly, dude. Like when I show it to people, they're like, wow, this is very impressive. So kudos to you. You've learned it all self-taught. Really appreciate you.
Our production is definitely outkicking our coverage, for sure.
Yes.
We're
100%.
Definitely doing better than what we're working with. But I appreciate that. That means a lot. I appreciate everyone watching. We're still obviously trying to grow this channel. Obviously, this is the first year we've really committed to YouTube. We did the audio thing for a while. And now we said, screw all that. Let's just throw all resources into YouTube. We've noticed a big difference. So I'm excited to see what the channel looks like, especially after next season. It feels like we're on a good track. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you're not, tell us. If you like the show but have suggestions, tell us. Seriously, would like to hear it.
We want to hear what you want to hear, because we can do more of that.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to do what we want. We want to do what you guys want to do. We're always here to serve.
Because, we like doing all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We like being funny. We like being analytical. We like being off the cuff. We like it all. So if you like a particular thing, drop it in the comments. As far as football goes, we are ending the regular season, man. Like it's coming up. It's 3 weeks away. We got a week in Kansas City. We're going to be vlogging on that trip. And I keep saying this to the episodes to hold us accountable.
No, yeah.
So we are going to be doing that.
I'm glad you keep plugging that. I'm really excited about that. Maybe no one will care. It might be a week later, but we are going to vlog the entire Kansas City trip. We're going to leave on Friday, go see the Texans game, hang out, and we're going to vlog the whole thing. I'll edit it up, post it. We will do an episode of the show also from Kansas City, maybe Sunday night in the hotel room or whatever, and try to get that up for you guys. So it should be fun.
It'll be really cool. As long as our equipment doesn't freeze as we're trying to vlog, we're going to do it. But it's going to, I think the high's 35 last time I checked, and that's not even accounting for wind or feel like temperature. So it's going to be rough. But we're going to do it for you guys and for the love of football, and just because we want a little vacation of our own. But next week is going to be really decisive. It's going to really put into some of these pieces in that playoff bracket, I believe.
Yeah, I completely agree. It does feel like, and I'm not saying this to shortchange the regular season or say I'm not looking forward to the next 3 weeks. It feels like the playoffs are kind of locked up at this point.
But it always feels that way, and there's always a surprise.
That's so true.
Great question. Out of all that we've talked about tonight, anything we've talked about, what would be the biggest surprise to you that is actually likely to happen? Like, we can't say that, like, the Cardinals could make it to the playoffs or something that's within the realm of possibility that you'd be like, holy cow, cannot believe that happened.
Lions being one and done in the playoffs.
Okay, that's fun. That's really fun.
I could see, now obviously I'd be shocked, but like just the first thing that came to mind was them not getting the 1 seed and they have to host the Commanders or the Packers and they get beaten in that playoff game because of the defensive injuries. Lions fans, I'm really not hating on you. I love the team. I love Dan Campbell. I don't think any team could overcome the amount of defensive injuries they have. I really don't. Not in the NFC.
Mine would be Chiefs being one and done. That was my initial thought. Was saying like, hey, the Bills get that 1 seed. That would honestly be a big surprise to me too. I think it's a tough fight to get there with the Chiefs, but I think we could do it. But the Chiefs playing, their game and losing. So say if the Chiefs had to play the Chargers, let's just swap out the Bills for the Chiefs right now as it would stand today. And the Chiefs losing against the Chargers, that would be a huge surprise.
I agree. Like, as a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't want to face the Chargers or the Broncos because they're divisional opponent. I will say I would be more scared facing the Broncos. I feel like the Chiefs can handle the Chargers. Broncos, Sean Payton, feel like they could get an upset on us. The Chiefs, I picked them to win. I thought they were going to pull off the three-peat. They're still one of the best teams in the NFL. They still got Mahomes. They save things for the playoffs, but I'm really just like the left tackle position is such a problem. Mahomes is taking a beating back there, and I think that adds up at some point.
The Chiefs have never been in a position where they've been one and done in the playoffs.
No,
under the Andy Reid Mahomes era.
The worst season under Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid was that overtime AFC Championship loss to the Cincinnati Bengals that me and you attended. And
first game ever.
Last year,
and that was just because we went.
Yeah, we decided 2 days beforehand we were going. And started a bit of a tradition. You said last year you picked against the Chiefs in every playoff game. Then you had to come after the Super Bowl and wear a sign that said, Mahomes is my daddy. We still have it just in case. So I just want on record, if they play the Bills, I'll give you the leeway. Otherwise, in a playoff matchup, you have to pick the Chiefs.
Yes.
Because I'm going to do the same thing. Could they lose? I'm not picking against Mahomes and Andy Reid in a playoff game.
This is why my biggest surprise would be the Chiefs losing and being one and done in the playoffs. Like, that's never happened before under this reign, and I don't think it will. Like,
everyone keeps telling me how flawed they are, and they're 12-1.
I could see the Bills beating them out.
Yes, the Bills are a better team.
100%. All around, and the Bills can score more points than the Chiefs. They're just a more explosive offense.
It feels like we're racing towards a Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship match that is going to drastically determine the outcome of the Bills franchise going forward. Chiefs, whatever happens, they'll be back next year. They lost all their receivers this year. They've had a tough go of it. If the Bills this season lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs, Ryan, I don't see how they can not make wholesale changes. I just don't see how you can not, you've lost to them 3. This will be the 4th time. This has to be the year if you're Buffalo. It has to be.
And if that does happen, I hope it snows so bad in Kansas City and the Bills that they cannot play and they have to relocate to Atlanta or Tennessee, Nashville area. And so that way we can go to that game.
Josh Allen is, I think, in the phase of his career this year, he is Thanos. At the end of that scene, one of the cut scenes where he grabs the glove and he says, I'll do it myself. That's Josh Allen this year.
Well, I think it's actually working for him. Let's see. When the Super Bowl is, where is the Super Bowl this year? New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah. Wow. Man, if the Bills win, it's going to be really hard. Or make it to the Super Bowl. It's going to be hard for me not to buy a ticket to go.
Have you seen how much Super Bowl tickets are?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for me not to sell my house to go to that game. Obviously, could not afford to go to the Super Bowl because I think even the cheap tickets are $4,000.
Oh, probably.
Nosebleeds.
Yeah.
So I think the parking lot is $2,000.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our show for week 15. Tristan, kick us into week 16.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. Leave a comment, tell your friends about it, like the video, subscribe to the channel. honest football talk, two idiots covering one sport. We're going to Kansas City next week. We will have vlogs, content coming out. It's going to be really fun going to see the Chiefs play the Texans. Hopefully Mahomes plays. It's going to be a bit of a letdown. If he doesn't, we'll see. I think he'll be fine. You guys have a great week. See you next time. Goodbye.